Oh, he's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. I've already seen the fucking memes. Spoilers. Hello there.
He's gonna say it.
Hello there.
My boy.
I think the Obi-Wan theme in the show sounds like I just got killed. Oh damn! It sounds like the Spider-Man PS4 theme.
Oh, it's been a minute, but
it kind of does, right?
Yeah, I believe that. Okay. Yeah.
I'll send you a video. I looked it up just because I was like, am I insane? But other people have pointed it out. So I was like, okay, good.
Okay, well, so now that we've tied up that loose end, now we can properly discuss this.
Okay.
So, well, I was thinking here that thing that I mentioned a minute ago, that mental note of whatnot, is he goes back to Tatooine, right?
Uh-huh.
And at least the way that episode frames it, to me, in my mind, now I can disagree or, enlighten me or whatever, but it seems to me as he's like, okay, we're good to go now. Like, I defeated Vader. He's, all broken and whatnot and everything, so goodbye, old friend. I'm not gonna see you anymore. There's no way you could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hurt me now. And Reva is no longer a threat either because she's kind of like seen her wrongs and whatnot. So,
well,
that's
it's
the
like,
case.
but it's like she's not a threat in the sense of she doesn't want to hurt them, but like her existing is dangerous. Which kind of confused me as to why Obi-Wan was so cool about letting her go.
Yeah.
Like, she knows, right?
Yeah. Well, so I guess my issue is that... okay, for the sake of just... let's humor ourselves, right? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Let's say Obi-Wan believes that Reva is no longer an issue. And... let's also humor the idea that he says, okay, Vader is pretty much done. Like, he's gonna sit there on that, whatever unnamed planet once again, and he'll wither away. Like, I mean, there's no way he can come back. That's what he's thinking in his head, right? So why would he be in hiding on Tatooine again? Like, are they... maybe he's thinking, like, there's some inkling of them that's still hunting him or whatnot.
I don't think he thinks that Vader's dead. I think he just chooses not to kill him. And is he's just made peace with that.
Yeah, maybe so. I think there has to be something else where we have to fill in and kind of quantify why he's decided to go back into hiding again. Like, there has to be something that says, okay, Obi-Wan feels like he is in danger or whatever, or is still in danger, and he needs to realize that he still needs to be careful and in hiding or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't really get answered. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that that maybe opens up a window of opportunity for more things to be said.
Oh, I see. You're saying like there's sequel potential to this.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. No, I agree with you.
There's something. Yeah.
Well, they're going to feel out whether or not people want to see it. And it's like the problem is Ewan McGregor is like very charismatic, and like I do enjoy seeing him. So it's like if I have to watch more Star Wars content, like at this point, like fuck it, why not? Like at least he's fun and like I like seeing him. So like whatever.
I
It doesn't.
agree.
This season was unnecessary. So like another season would be just as unnecessary. But like, who cares? I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I definitely think that the biggest thing behind this was him. Like, I mean, which if there's a right to be. I mean, it's a show about him, and I think in that respect he nailed it.
Yeah.
But there was a point there in the middle where it kind of just sort of lost its way and turned into Obi-Wan and Princess Leia adventure story for the sake of getting us from one point to another. And then I think it didn't really work because there were just a few episodes there right in the middle of it where it was like it felt as if all of the direction was, hey, this is kind of just a transitional piece so we can get from, the starting point to where we want to end up in a stretch of 6 episodes. So we're not really going to think about this too much. We're just going to write it and put it together and then put a lot more of the focus on the bookends of it, so to speak.
Yes, I would agree. That's like 100% fair.
Because I mean, just looking at this objectively, like was it 4, 3, 4, whichever one it was.
The breakout episode is the one that really stood out to me as just like, what are we watching? What is this?
Well, like when he goes to the base.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was just like a travesty. I'm like, okay, I don't know what y'all were doing here, but Star Wars, not Star Wars, whatever, everything else. There's just some things in this that are just kind of laughably silly and plot holes kind of galore. Like, just, tighten up a little bit of the writing and how it was directed and cut out the unnecessarily little fiddly bits that seem so goofy, i.e. the walkie-talkie where they can hear his but not hers, and she's sitting right there. her really weak character, and then she's like, "Oh, by the way, I took care of the problem, which was that guard, by taking him into the back of the same room and leaving his body in the room and just leaving him there out in the open floor and saying, I took care of the problem." No, you didn't. You just made a bigger problem. Yeah, that whole thing was.
So the show wants to have it like both ways. Like, it wants to be like a real like slow character driven, like the drama is more important than the action, but like the writing's not strong enough for it to be that. And it's also like it's Star Wars, so they're like, okay, we have to have like fun, like campy Star Wars action, but the action sucks because it's filmed in the volume, and it's like, they have a shoestring budget comparatively. Like, it's a lot of money they're spending, but they're not spending like Star Wars movie money, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's just like, okay, so the action isn't strong enough for it to just be like, okay, turn your brain off, here's some good action. And the writing isn't strong enough for it to be like, okay, like a good example, on the plane to this wedding, I rewatched Logan, which was the final like Wolverine movie, where like there's one action scene, there's like 2 action scenes in the 2.5-hour movie, but it's all like character beats and like all of this like really good like drama, and like the writing is excellent, so you don't care that there's not a ton of action. So yeah, like it wants to have it both ways, and thus it is neither.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, there's the one that carries any bit of charisma in both ways of that is you.
Yeah,
and then And then, well, we only really get to experience some of that on the opposite side in this last episode, where we got, him and Darth Vader finally doing a full-fledged battle that was actually pretty good. Like, comparative to the other things that we've seen.
Sure, like it
earlier in
was
the series,
easily the
it was
best
better.
one. It was the
Yeah.
best one. It still wasn't like what I would call like really good, but like it was decent.
Yeah. And so that was fine. And I think that I might be wrong in assuming, but I was under the presumption that that was Hayden doing all of that.
I don't even know that it is, man. Like I want it to be, but I don't think it is.
I don't know. I know that he was doing the voice bit, some of that, when the
Yes.
mask broke and whatnot, which was
Yeah.
cool. I thought that was great. There were a lot of cool things that happened in that.
Well, that scene to me was the scene where I was like, okay, this is what they wanted it to be, and this is very good. It was
Right.
like the whole. I really loved when he like sees Anakin underneath the shell, and like that really moves him, and he starts crying. And Anakin like doesn't. Like the way I interpret it was, Anakin believes he's too far gone, but he also regrets how things went. So he gives him the, "You didn't kill Anakin, I did," which is like, it's like the only way that he can like apologize without apologizing. And it also sort of gives Obi-Wan his Darth Vader killed your father from a certain point of view,
Right.
Like
Yeah,
that
that's-
sort of helps him with that. And I'm like, okay, that's really clever, and I like that. And there were other scenes that wanted to be as good as that one that weren't. But I thought that was good. It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I. It. I think that was easily the best bit of the whole thing.
Mhm.
And that's saying something because I think that, like, I said it way before this even came out, like back when it was first announced. I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm excited about seeing more Obi-Wan for Ewan McGregor, right?
Mhm.
But like 100%, this was not a show that was needed. This was
No.
not even a story that was needed. It was completely unnecessary. And so that whole entire battle and face-off between them for a second time, quote unquote, if you want to call that first encounter that. I
Sure.
wouldn't really. But it still falls kind of into the category of unnecessary, because a lot of it kind of takes away what was established or kind of read into the headcanon of A New Hope.
Uh-huh.
And so it had these expectations to kind of fill that I think everybody had different ideas about what it was supposed to be and what it was supposed to look like. So I was very skeptical going into it. And coming from somebody that was that, I will admittedly say that the last episode and them facing off was pretty good,
Sure.
albeit unnecessary,
Hmm.
and I could have done without it. It was still good, and I still think it was handled fine.
Mhm.
I kind of see it as almost like this alternative, because prior to this, I think most of us sort of assumed he was just hiding out, and then they encountered each other for the first time in years, and boom,
Mhm.
there you go. So it's kind of either or in my head now. Like it could have been either way. So I guess this is the new way.
Sure. Yeah.
Pun intended. And I think it was handled well, because it was just there was some good dialogue bits, like you said, that kind of added some character to Darth Vader and
Yeah,
Obi-Wan.
yeah. Like, if you're gonna do this, then you really need to, like, have the characters grapple with, like, the emotions of it, because, like, I think narratively it is a little more interesting if, like, Darth Vader just assumes that Obi-Wan was dead, and then, oh, fuck, Obi-Wan's literally in my house. Like, I think that's more interesting. But, like, it does leave something to be desired for both of those characters, because now it's like, okay, so Obi-Wan cut up his best friend on Mustafar and then didn't see him for 20 years, and they don't, like, acknowledge that in A New Hope? That's a little weird. So, like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It kind of juggles a fine line between, like, there's a bit of separation now between the characters and that relationship that once was, and it kind of allows both of them to separate from what the prequels had established between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and so it reads a little better in that sense.
Yeah, I did find it both, like, it's a little confusing, but also kind of, like, I thought it was a little funny when like, Darth Vader's like, I'm gonna go fucking kill Obi-Wan, and the Emperor's like, bro, let it go. Like, what are you saying?
Oh my god, I was so glad that he was there. Like, I was like, yes, that's awesome.
Well, and they showed, like, fucking remarkable restraint, because it's like, if you're gonna bring him back, you'd think they'd put him in, like, every goddamn episode, and they didn't. So, like, that's good, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
For sure. I mean, especially since they milked his cow big time in the last movie and made that absurd thing. Yeah, I was really pleased and happy to see Ian McDermott back doing that. And they had his get-up look pretty good, and
yeah, he looked alright. He was doing the weird Tyrannosaur arms that he's done for 30 years now.
Yeah.
Just like, alright.
And for a second there, I was like, hang on, is that him or not? And then he kind of got his role going with his voice.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, there he
is. That's good. That is good.
Yeah. So that was cool. I had almost forgotten about that because it was kind of a quick thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was some. I can't believe I'm saying it. Well accounted for fan service in this one.
Yes, I'd say so. There was never a point. Well, the hello there.
Hello there.
Well, I kind of rolled my eyes at that, but, like, the rest of it, it was like there wasn't, like, Commander Rex showed up, or like a clone trooper who knew who Obi-Wan was, or like any of those, like, real obvious things that you could go for. There wasn't any of that, I felt, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, they did that. They did what's his bucket clone.
Sure. But
like,
and to me, that was just like, I mean, he was on a different lot filming Boba Fett, so, like, come over here, we'll write you a check and give you lunch. You can.
Yeah.
Much. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I see that 100%. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, this is cool.
He's here anyway. We may as well.
Yeah. It just builds some atmosphere.
Yeah. Now, so to the stuff you were talking about earlier with, like, reasons that he's on Tatooine at this point that don't quite make sense. I am a little confused by that, because everyone's going, well, he needs to be there to watch Luke still. And to me, I'm just like, at this point, why does Obi-Wan just assume that Luke is the Force-sensitive one?
Yeah.
He's never interacted with him in any capacity. He's just like, I have to teach the boy to be a Jedi as soon as he's ready. And it's like, you've met Leia. She's, like, really intuitive, like, freakishly intuitive for a person her age. Like, it's probably more likely that she's Force sensitive, and she's got, like, the emotional maturity to deal with that. Why aren't you training her and leaving Luke to be a moisture farmer where no one will ever bother him if you just don't... If you stay there, like, he's at risk, and you don't even know if he knows how to use the Force. That doesn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I see that.
Like she's if Anakin's like child had like all of the cool-headedness of Padme, which he literally says, like that's in the text. He says, "Oh, you're the best part of both of your parents." Then why the fuck aren't you training her to be a Jedi? Like, what are you doing?
So real. Yeah.
So, like, I'm willing to let it go
also-
because it's the movie and you can't like do that. But it still is just like, what is happening here? Like, did no one think about this when they were sort of plotting this out?
Well, I mean, also it's like he spent however long it was lollygagging around to go find her, and while he was off, frolicking along with her on adventures, Luke was hanging out there, and he was fine.
Yeah,
He was fine for a long time.
he was A-okay.
Until, Reva decided to come back.
Sure.
Like,
Well, so no,
it's
go ahead.
also kind of like you would kind of wonder to yourself, like, okay, if they had intelligence that he was there, and then they almost tracked him down, and then they had an inkling of suspicion, all of the Inquisitors, in fact, that, hey, maybe Reva was maybe right or something about that farmer dude knowing something.
Yeah, literally.
Maybe we should just go check it out. I mean,
because even if they treat Obi-Wan like, okay, he's no more important than any of the other Jedis, it's like, okay, but he's the one that you still have a lead on, right? So like, you'd better believe people would come snooping around again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, to be fair, like, Luke was fine pretty much the whole time until she decided to just come back and then not do anything.
This is what I thought was going to happen. I thought Obi-Wan was going to be like, okay, you're a good person. Like, you chose to do the right thing. That's great. And then, like, she'd be, like, grateful for that. And then after Obi-Wan, like, turns around, I thought Owen would just kill her. Just like gun her down. And like Obi-Wan would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "No, like, are you serious? We can't leave her alive. She's gonna bring the Empire right here. Like, intentionally or not, she's gonna do it. Like, I'm sorry." And then he'd dig a shallow grave for her. Like, the fact that she's survived doesn't bother me. It does kind of bother me that they don't resolve her. Like, she just goes, "Oh, I'm good now," and they go, "Okay, cool," and then she disappears. Like, what the fuck happens to her?
Yeah. I knew it was gonna be this thing though, where it was like, oh, we're gonna take this character that's bad, and she's bad, and look at her. Oh wow, she's so bad, which you never really buy into it. And
I do love that. Like,
she
was a youngling was supposed to be a twist, and it's like,
oh my god,
but like
that was so like heavy-handed. It was like
literally
a sledgehammer with it. I'm like, what? Wow! Shock! Yeah! Whoa!
It was like, oh, there was a black girl in the first scene, and since the only black people in Star Wars are main characters, like,
yeah, and then it was like the most obvious kind of, just the most blatantly obvious kind of cut around. I'm like, okay, wow, yeah, no shock there. But the problem is it's like, I knew they were going to do this thing. It's like, bad, 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 bad. Maybe if we say it enough and we make her act
and they'll believe us. Yeah.
They'll think that she's actually bad. But we're going to be like, oh, look, surprise. She's going to turn good. But not only just turn good, she's going to be a pivotal character that she's going to play this role. She's going to be put in a position of, she could change the course of events if she would have made a different decision, but she didn't. Therefore, she's a huge part of this canon that we're now establishing. I knew that that's what was going to happen, and then that's how they did it in this really kind of, I don't know.
Well, it's a little ham-fisted because it's like,
yeah.
What you could have done is like, if you're gonna do that, like the more obvious choice, then like, have her like lead the Empire away or something, or have like a noble sacrifice in some capacity. But what you did was like, You went, oh, she could kill Luke, and then she doesn't, and that's
Right.
it. Great.
Yeah.
Fine.
And that's it. So she spared him because, yeah.
Because reasons.
So now she's good, right?
Yeah. Well, that's
you like her, right?
well, and I do sort of make fun of it. Like I talked with Ezra about this a little, where he was just like, that's just like such a fucking simplistic way of looking at it. And I was like, I mean, Star Wars has always been kind of that simplistic. Like, we're gonna go, okay, Darth Vader decides not to kill his own child, and that makes him a good person. He did murder probably 100 children with his hands, but like,
Yeah.
but he's a good person now, so his ghost can go to heaven, I guess.
But then it's like, oh no, he's very bad. Let's put him in this position where he murders a kid.
Yeah.
Just cause.
Yeah,
Cause he's
exactly.
Darth Vader. Because he's bad.
Because he's bad.
He's bad, man. He's bad boy. Well, so I did, but then it was just like, oh no, he just created an air pocket thing using the Force, and then he like jumped up out of there like nothing happened at all.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I would have thought it was interesting if they had, like... I think the implication was supposed to be that, like, Darth Vader... Well, maybe I'm reading too much into this. It seemed to me like they went, okay, Darth Vader didn't follow up because he kind of wants to give himself an out of, like, oh, I didn't kill Obi-Wan because he doesn't actually want to. But if that was the intent, like, you couldn't really tell. And if that wasn't the intent, like, then why didn't he sort of follow up? Like, it's fucking Obi-Wan. You think you've killed this fucker, like, 8 times. And he just slips out every time. Like, that's kind of his thing in all of the prequels, too. It's like, oh, I killed Obi-Wan. Nah, not really. Like, Darth Maul fell for that. General Grievous fell for that. Like, all these people sort of fall for that.
Count Dooku fell for that.
Well, yeah, like, in whatever
twice.
capacity. Like, everyone thinks they can get the one-up on Obi-Wan, and he's like a cockroach. You just can't kill him.
It's just like, he inevitably always has something fall on him, and he's fine.
Yeah.
But he's like, Sith Lords are our speciality. But he never finishes them off, and they always end up throwing something on top of him. And he just turns into a roach and just, like, slithers out somehow. You're like, where the fuck did you come from, old man? And now we're back to Alec Guinness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the whole thing, you know? Yeah, it's part of his character. That's what it is, man. It's his character trope. I don't know. I'm
kind of making fun of it right now, but like I'm shocked how much of this I didn't mind. Like I thought this was gonna be like a travesty, and some of it was actually like pretty good.
Yeah, me too. I was 3 and 4 had me on the hoop here. I was like, oh god, this is gonna fall off the rails.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
once
that's
again,
not
like
good.
some of the writing is like the scene-to-scene writing is pretty weak, and like most of the action is pretty bad, and like action is expensive. Like even if you're doing like all CG stuff, like the choreography and like the thought that goes into action sequences is like a skill, and like there are very talented people who do it, and if you're not willing to pay for them, like the action's gonna be weak. Like that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
I was I had a thought, who knows. Anywho. This was it. So I'm just looking at some of the lightsaber fights, and like they're kind of weak, right? And I'm going, okay, are they weak because like why is this happening? And the only reason I can sort of think of is they're not spending the money on like the people to like properly choreograph these or properly rehearse them. Because if there's ever a human being who should be able to swing around a lightsaber and make it look cool, it's fucking Ewan McGregor. Like that guy knows what he's doing. He did that for 10 years. And like if he can't make a lightsaber fight look cool, that means the fight kind of sucks. Or you didn't give him enough time to rehearse it. Like it's not his fault, is the point.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I think it was just almost these like deliberate choices that they made to either cut corners or something. Where, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. I think the best outcome of the whole thing was episode 1 established kind of where we were at, what we were going with, and it was fine. But that's barring any kind of action or lack thereof.
Well, it's like it had that Princess Leia chase sequence, which is just like really hilarious.
Right. But this last one kind of was firing on all cylinders finally. And it still misfired a couple times.
Yeah.
But it's also in the same vein, like what you said, it's like, okay, that sequence looked better. And even even earlier in the episode where they were having kind of the flashback sequences, it's like, okay, I know you guys know how to make this look good because you at least make this look somewhat believable.
Yeah,
so what happened all the rest of the time, you know?
Well, and okay, so while we're talking about that flashback sequence, I was like, okay, well, this is the reason they brought Hayden back, because like you wanted to do a scene of him like as young Anakin, which of course you should absolutely do. Like that's great.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed those sequences, but it just sort of, if anything, reminded me of how little I had seen him elsewhere in the show. I was like, oh great, it's Hayden. You know, I haven't seen too much of Hayden. That's kind of weird.
Right. No.
Like, sure, it's like, oh, he's all the close-ups of Darth Vader. Cool? Like, it's still not him, right?
Yeah, it's like, do I really believe that?
Well, it's like you had 2 stunt doubles who did all the fight sequences.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Darth Vader's like 6'8", so you need a really tall guy. That, once again, that's fine, but then that's not Hayden, so you can't really use that as a selling point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way because I was super excited to see him, and then it was just kind of like, well,
here we are.
But what are you gonna do though? And then as it went on, I was like, is he gonna do anything? Is he gonna be in this? I'm just gonna choose to believe that maybe that's him in that, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I had a similar kind of feeling, and I wanted there to be more there because, and I'm glad that I'm glad for what little there was because, you know, one of the biggest things that carried the prequel, the prequels was the character Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, you know. So, and then central piece of that was Obi-Wan, and then when we move on to Attack of the Clones, you know, a huge center piece of that is Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, kind of paralleled with Anakin and Padme's relationship, and how they kind of coincide but also butt heads. So that's a huge part of the characters. And I was like, if they don't at least have one instance of the 2 of them.
Yeah. Or it's very clearly the 2 of them.
Right, where it's very clearly those characters and not Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, then it's going to kind of... It's going to really kind of flatten the whole experience because it's like, well, what? Like, what? We're not going to really get a lot of the emotional weight behind what we're getting here. So,
I'm not even picky on
her.
Yeah.
And I wish there was more Hayden, of course, because I mean he is good, and I think he always got kind of a bad rap for bad writing.
Yeah.
And he was still really good in this. It was, and so it's just like, well, I wish there was more, but I'll be happy with what we got. You know, that kind of thing. So.
Sure. And like I would have taken it in any form. Like if you wanted to do more flashbacks, like great. If you wanted to do like tweak the plot a little, and like Darth Vader captures Obi-Wan, and they get a cool scene where he's like, "Do you want to see what you did to me?" And he like takes his helmet off, and
Yeah,
like,
I was kind of waiting on something cool like that. But,
yeah,
you know, they did that kind of a small tease-esque bit of that with the whole like partial exposure of his helmet.
Mm. Well, and I thought
So,
that,
I mean-
like, once again, the character stuff from that moment was very good. It was some of my favorite stuff. So, like, I wanted more of it.
Right.
Because, like, I would have taken, like, more of that, like, good drama and less of, like, you could have done without that Princess Leia breakout episode. Do that Obi-Wan got captured and Princess Leia escaped. And now Obi-Wan has to break out of this prison where Darth Vader's, like, interrogating him and torturing him. Like, do some of that shit. That'd be awesome. Like, that solves a couple of problems.
Yeah. I feel like that would have been pretty cool, but
I mean, once again, like, for what I got, I was pleased with the things that I did see. It's just some of the stuff didn't really work for me, so like, why not retool the things that work really well and figure out how to extend those?
yeah. Overall, I think it was all right. Again, for the skeptic in me that said this is an unnecessary story.
Sure.
Therefore, it has a lot of baggage against it that can make it immediately fall into the category of unnecessary. Probably going to be bad because it's trying to fill in too much in a gap that isn't really there. It's just kind of creating it.
All right. Well, let me ask you this: did this need to be a 6-episode show, or do you think they could have condensed it into a 2-hour movie? Episodes 3 and 4, I felt were largely like, oh, do we really need this? You know, so I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
You probably, and then they're half-an-hour episodes. Like, let's be generous here. Like, they're 40-minute episodes. So 4 40-minute episodes, you probably could have just made like a really tight, like 2-hour, 2.5-hour movie that would have moved at a clip, and then there it is, it's done.
Yeah. So I think, well, I mean, like what you said there was like, it would need to be tightened up, and I think some things would have to. I think there would need to be more of a, maybe a different storyboard.
Yeah, like get rid of some of the gack there.
Yeah, I think it would need a bit more of an overhaul than just an edit down. Because I think if we're talking just in terms like using the content that is there, and then they just cut it down to a 2-hour movie, I think it probably would have been a bit of a wreck.
Oh, sure.
Quite a mess.
But like from the drawing board, if they had said we want to tell this story and we're gonna make a 2-hour movie, yeah.
Exactly. If it would have been that, going from scratch and working on maybe that budget and a bigger studio with that in mind from the get-go,
Mm-hmm.
I think it probably could have tickled the itch a little better.
Yeah.
Just because there is a lot of like filler in this.
Right? You know, for something that's
like,
so short, there's a lot of filler.
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to experiment and get at something a little bit here and there. That and some of it worked, some of it kind of didn't work. So I think if we were playing devil's advocate here, and it was just kind of like it changed up drastically and turned into a 2-hour movie that was the same but different. It probably would have been better.
Yeah.
It could have had maybe a little bit more direction and focus than what it did have. So if we back up a little bit, I think what really kind of marred the early episodes for me was I was, in my mind's eye, I was expecting this to be more centrally focused on Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and this kind of
Yes.
cat and mouse thing between them specifically.
Yes, yes.
And what it ended up turning into was that, but the go-between was using Leia as this kind of like selling point, which is fine. Okay, so that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly really enjoyed like the actor, like herself. I thought she was great. There's a lot of people criticizing her. I really enjoyed her. Now, some of her writing was a little wonky for like a serious show. She had a couple of scenes that were like, okay, this dialogue's a little odd, but I'm not going to blame her for that.
Yeah. But I think what initially kind of threw me off for a bit, and that I didn't really care for, was I think that they pumped the brakes really quick, and like they put it on a stop really fast and really early with the whole kind of cat and mouse deal. By them kind of catching up and meeting really fast.
Yes.
And then it just kind of makes everything else underwhelming because there isn't really any suspense building up. It's just like, okay, well, he found you. Oh,
Yep.
And then you got away and evade. Oh, nope, but you didn't know. And then just kind of rinse repeat that a couple more times, and that was the gist.
Yeah.
I think that there could have been a little bit more kind of in between to build up the suspense of almost there, but slipped away and they didn't even see each other or come close. So that kind of bothered me a little bit from the get-go. But, you know, all I'm going to say is it was better and more enjoyable than Book of Boba Fett. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, Book of Boba Fett's just like a travesty. Like, what a mess that show was.
Yeah.
Did you ever even finish that?
No, I did not.
You didn't miss anything, let me tell you.